The Philadelphia 76ers had the best regular season throughout the entire era of the process. They finished with the #1 seed in the East. Joel Embiid likely would have been the MVP if he hadn't missed too many games towards the final third of the season. It seemed as if the questions regarding whether or not Ben and Joel could play together on a championship contending team were put to bed with Philly's regular season success. They were both all-stars, and the addition of Seth Curry to the lineup seemed to work wonders to add just enough spacing for Joel to feast in the low post. Though in the second round of the playoffs, the wheels seemed to come off against the Hawks, a team with an offensive superstar in Trae Young and a deep supporting cast. Though it was evident that the star power leaned heavily on the side of the 76ers. Joel and Tobias delivered performances that were expected of them, and Seth Curry had the greatest series of his entire career, but one vital player appeared to be somewhat MIA. All-star Ben Simmons. MIA may be a bit extreme, as he was facilitating prolifically and providing a high defensive impact, even shutting down Trae Young for one of the games in the series, but less than 10 points per game is unacceptable from an all-star and the player who's supposed to be the second best on the team. His lack of aggression and confidence was evident and was a key reason to why the Sixers weren't able to even get to the conference finals after securing the #1 seed. The offseason for the Sixers was pretty quiet. As for additions, they had a second round pick. I think he was a second round pick, and they used it on Jaden Springer. They didn't really make any trades at all. And in the free agency market, they added Andre Drummond and George Niang, shooter, who's played for Utah for a while. I guess adding Drummond is a replacement of Dwight Howard. Cool. Drummond doesn't have to worry about going against Joel Embiid anymore, so that's good for him. But there weren't any additions that really moved the needle for the 76ers. As for subtractions, there hasn't been a Ben Simmons trade yet, and then they actually lost quite a few people in free agency. They lost Dwight Howard, George Hill, Tony Bradley, and Mike Scott. George Hill barely played any games. Tony Bradley only played backup center when Joel was hurt, but the big loss here is Dwight Howard, who remains to be one of the league's best backup centers still at his age. And Mike Scott hasn't signed anywhere else, I don't think. He's a good guy to have as your 10th man in your rotation. He can hit an open three, plays hard, somewhat versatile, physical veteran. But yeah, the big loss was Dwight Howard out of that bunch. Taking a look at the depth chart at the guard positions, as of now, they have Ben Simmons. We'll just put an asterisk by his name. Seth Curry, of course, Shake Milton, and Tyrese Maxey. Shake Milton and Tyrese actually had a pretty good regular season. I think they're going to be showcased in the lineup a bit more going into this season. I think this is Maxey's second year and Milton's either his third or fourth. The forward rollout will be Tobias Harris, Danny Green, Matisse Thybulle, and Furkan Korkmaz. And the two-headed monster at center is Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond. Now we can get to the point of the video that's most significant for Philly, the roster thought, or whatever this section is called. I forgot what I call it. There's very little turnover amongst this roster as of right now. The 10-man roster is almost entirely the same. There's a slight drop-off from Dwight to Drummond in my opinion. Yes, I said drop-off. I'd rather have Dwight as my backup center than Andre Drummond. It's only a slight drop-off. They do pretty much the same types of things that you will want your backup rim-running big to do. Just like last year, the roster is still very nice. Defense should be elite. Joel and Ben are two players that can be Defensive Player of the Year candidates. I mean, if they're on the same team. Matisse is probably the best defensive wing off the bench. Tobias is defending power forwards and not small forwards. That's good for him and good for the team. And Danny's not really falling off a cliff as of yet on the defensive end with his age. So there is a very huge problem that still exists though. And his name is Benjamin Simmons. There's still no progress in this situation, and I think we're 10 days away from the start of the regular season. Yeah, he's done with Philly. I don't think he wants to be there. He'd probably get jumped by some fools in Philly. Philly motherfuckers are crazy. Like it or not, Benjamin is an all-star, and the 76ers will definitely struggle if they don't have his services or don't find a trade to land a package in return that estimates his value. So what's the holdup? Is it just Philly asking for too much? Like multiple first round picks from subpar teams might be a bit steep. What's Daryl Morey even really asking for? Shouldn't he be worried about getting a ready now player that is close to the all-star caliber that Simmons is, while simply being a better fit for Philly and playing next to Joel? I don't think you should be concerned with loading up on draft ammo. You're not going to start a rebuild. Possibly the fact that teams just aren't interested. Benjamin did not help his trade stock at all in the postseason, but come on, it's still Ben Simmons though. You got to think that some teams are interested in the possibility that Benjamin could be unleashed if the team is built around him. This saga has been going on for, I think, the second half of the offseason, like 2 months. So you would think a team would have traded for him by now, but it just hasn't been the case, and we're 10 days away from the start of the season. So possible destinations, one being Minnesota. I think this is the most realistic one, the one that makes sense. I always talk about a D'Lo and Ben swap. The 76ers get an actual gung-ho shot creator in the backcourt who would probably work wonders in the pick and roll with Embiid. Definite defensive downgrade, but maybe slide in Thibault at the 2 and now Curry to the 6th man role. Of course, you'd be hoping that D'Lo could be fully recovered from last year's inconsistent health. If I'm Minnesota, or Minnesota's general manager, I don't know the name, I definitely say yes, because Ben fills the defensive need. There wouldn't be too much offensive pressure playing with Cat and Anthony Edwards. Ben can play with a better shooting center. In this deal, Philly would be the team to say no, since they'd be getting the lesser player in the deal, even if the fit is much better, because I don't think D'Lo really ever will be an all-star again. I just don't think so. I think there are some younger guards that have come into the league that are ahead of him now. So I don't really think he's going to be an all-star, so you're downgrading from an all-star to a guy who's a star. Another destination would be Houston. There's been talk of a Wall for Simmons swap. Definitely don't like that on Philly's end. Yes, Wall is infinitely more aggressive than Ben, but the injury risk is too high. He's not the same on defense. His outside shot is a bit wishy-washy. It's much better and much more consistent than Ben's outside shot has ever been, but it is still shaky. Houston 1000% says yes, because there's no real reason to have Wall in Houston. I'm pretty sure Houston wants to get rid of him as soon as possible. And if they could get Ben Simmons, that would probably be the best player they could get in a John Wall trade, because that contract's bad. They could get off of it. But I think if I'm Philly, I'm saying no here, because Wall isn't that much better of a fit than Simmons is on this team. And he's definitely not the better player than Simmons. Of course, we got to talk about Portland. We can talk about CJ for Ben, because Dame is not getting traded for Ben Simmons. Portland says yes here. They got to do something drastic to shake up the team. Haven't made a big move since the Nurkic pickup. Dame time is ticking. I hope you get the pun. If you get Ben for CJ, you get bigger, you get much better defensively, and that's been the problem for the Blazers for the past couple of years. And the fit of him playing with one of the best scoring point guards in the league is immaculate. Like, that would be a dream come true for Ben, honestly. He doesn't even have to be on the ball as much. He could actually run some pick and roll as like him in the screener, treat him more like a power forward. I just don't think it's much of a needle mover. CJ's not a point guard really, even though he is the size of a point guard. He's just not that prolific of a playmaker. D'Angelo Russell's a better playmaker than CJ, and he's probably a worse defender than D'Angelo Russell. So yeah, I think Philly says no here. We can talk about Brooklyn, the Kyrie for Ben. Like, that's just not happening. KD is not letting Kyrie get traded. We can talk about Washington. Bradley Beal, maybe. I honestly think that ship has sailed maybe a year or two ago. Philly would definitely say yes, but the Wizards say no, because currently they're not trying to trade him. Even if they were, I think he holds more value than just Ben Simmons. It would probably take a package from Philly, including Ben, that they wouldn't be able to really assemble, like picks, multiple promising youngsters, better than Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, and Jaden Springer, honestly. Could talk about Cleveland, honestly. Maybe Colin Sexton. I forgot when I heard this rumor, but I don't know if they want to pay Colin's rookie extension that he rightfully deserves. The Garland-Sexton thing in the backcourt, don't think that's going to be a long-term partnership. If they think Garland can be equally as good, if not better than Sexton as a scoring point guard, then offloading Sexton for a much bigger, much better defender and better playmaker in Benjamin might not be the worst idea. If I'm Morey, I do it in a heartbeat. Great shot creator that Colin is. He's improved every year. He's still young. I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. There is still the question of if he can improve as a passer, but honestly, adding Colin Sexton might be the trade I would make if I'm Daryl Morey. And then if I'm what's Kobe Altman, I think that's the Cavs GM. I'd say yes too, or actually no. I don't know. I honestly know. I'd pay Sexton because I fuck with Colin Sexton. I'd pay him. If anybody I'm trading is Darius Garland, and I think Darius Garland is really good, but I think Colin Sexton has the potential to be one of the league's best scorers, and I'd want to keep that on my team if I were Kobe Altman. I want to talk about Indiana because I just thought of this one. This is just me spitballing. Maybe Malcolm Brogdon. The Pacers get a younger player, like I'm talking about a Brogdon for Simmons. The Pacers would get a younger player with a higher ceiling, though the fit with Sabonis is iffy. I think Philly does this though, because Brogdon is very efficient. He's a good shot creator, great defender, great playmaker. But I don't know if Indiana does it, because I don't really think they'd like that fit with him and Sabonis. Simmons and Sabonis. You can talk about next season's starting lineup. I have it as Benjamin, Curry, Danny Green, Tobias, and Embiid. But in that place, it might be, I'm going to say Shake Milton. I'm going to say Shake Milton takes that spot, actually. I'll estimate their record to be 46-36. It's really hard to do because it's really dependent on when they trade Ben Simmons, or if they do at all, and if he comes back. Or there's a lot of variables floating out there that got to be solved to really give this team an accurate win-loss projection. But that's what I'm gonna go with. I'll estimate their seeding to be 5th in the Eastern Conference. They're just gonna miss out on home court advantage. I think I have Brooklyn, Milwaukee. I don't know all the teams I have ahead. Oh, Miami probably, and then one more team, probably Atlanta. Offensive rating I have at 13th. Defensive rating I have at 9th. I think Embiid can carry this team's defensive rating to top 3rd in the league. And they still have good defensive personnel throughout the team, even without Ben Simmons. Offense will be a bit tougher though, because they'll lose out on the playmaking that Ben provides. And if Ben really isn't on this team anymore, and I don't really think they're going to get a better player for Ben in a trade, I don't think Philly goes past the first round this year, which is tough to really say. Especially after last year, because it seemed like the process had finally paid off, like the fruits of Sam Hinkie's labor. It seemed like this team was poised to make an Eastern Conference Finals run, a Finals run at that. That obviously wasn't the case, and for me to say, or for me to estimate them to not even make it out the first round is just really sad, disappointing, heartbreaking as an NBA fan. The direction for this team is retooling. They're trying to adjust their fit around Joel, since Ben should be on his way out, and they're trying to find a better number 2, I guess. But Jesus Christ, Philly is in a state of flux. Media day has come and gone, and Ben Simmons still hasn't been in anything 76ers related. Fans have already torched his jerseys, and the ones that haven't met the fire are in stores 75% off next to Carson Wentz jerseys. So I think it's safe to say that situation is unsalvageable until a trade is made. How do the Sixers move on though? I don't expect Ben to play a single game for Philly, and it's not clear how long it'll be until they get either a single player of his caliber or multiple starting caliber players in a trade to make up for the value that they won't have during the odd hiatus. Without a trade being made, I think Joel can carry this team and keep them in the playoff picture, though the burden will be heavy. I expect a trade to be made at some point to relieve Embiid of some offensive responsibilities. I anticipate Morey to make a move that leans heavily offensively in the backcourt, since Philly already has some defensive wings and Embiid as a tremendous defensive anchor. This will be a very weird year for the 76ers, which is sad to say because they just came off their best regular season in recent memory. The direction of this season greatly hinges on what will be the aftermath of the Ben Simmons saga, and if Joel can repeat another MVP caliber season.